Welcome to Grandpa's Gentle Sleep Stories. If tonight your mind feels a little too busy, a little too awake, you're in the right place. You don't need to quiet your thoughts. You don't need to sort them out. These stories are here to sit beside you while your thinking slowly runs out of steam. So get comfortable. There's nothing to figure out as the story begins. The room is dark now, or nearly dark, and your body has already made the decision to rest. The lights are off. The sounds of the day have thinned. Even the air feels slower somehow. But your mind hasn't received the same message. It's still on, not loudly, not urgently, just steadily, like a small machine that keeps humming after the work is done. You lie still, aware of the quiet around you, yet aware of something else as well. Thoughts continue to move, lightly but persistently. They don't feel dramatic. They don't feel like panic. They feel ordinary, and that almost makes them harder to turn off. The day should be finished, but inside your mind, it hasn't quite ended. A small memory drifts in. Something someone said. Something you meant to reply to. It's not a crisis. It's not even especially important. Yet it plays back, just slightly altered, as if your mind is checking whether it handled it correctly. And another thought follows. A reminder of something tomorrow might require. A tiny task. A detail that doesn't need attention right now, but the mind doesn't fully understand right now. It understands motion. It understands staying active. It understands continuing. Your body, meanwhile, is already slowing. Muscles have softened. Your jaw rests more loosely. Your hands lie still without effort. Breathing has found a quieter rhythm on its own. The body is ready. The mind is still reviewing. It scans lightly for unfinished edges, conversations, emails, tone of voice, a look someone gave you that may have meant nothing at all. The mind holds it up, turning it slightly, as if inspecting it under softer light. There is no danger here, but the mind has grown used to staying alert, all day long. It has solved small problems. It has responded to messages. It has tracked time. It has made decisions, even tiny ones. And now, without warning, you expect it to power down instantly. It doesn't work that way. There is no switch to flip. The hum continues quietly. Another thought drifts in. This one less clear than the last. It begins forming, then changes shape halfway through. The mind doesn't seem fully committed to it. It's simply staying active out of habit. The night does not resist this. The darkness remains soft and patient. It does not demand silence. It does not rush you towards sleep. It simply stays. Your breathing continues, steady and automatic. You may notice it for a moment, then forget about it again. Each inhale arrives gently. Each exhale leaves without effort. Nothing is asking you to solve anything right now. But the mind hasn't quite accepted that. It replays the day in fragments. Not the big moments. Not the dramatic ones. Just small pieces. A sentence. A glance. A choice. Each one floats up briefly, then drifts aside. There is no clear pattern, just motion. The mind is like a light left on in an empty room. It doesn't need to be on, but it hasn't been turned off yet, and perhaps it doesn't need to be forced off. For now, it can simply continue softly. You remain still. Your body feels heavier than it did earlier. not in an uncomfortable way, in a settled way. As if gravity has gently increased its hold. Your shoulders sink slightly deeper into the mattress. Your legs rest without tension. Even your eyelids, though closed, feel heavier than before. The body understands rest before the mind does. Another thought appears, this one about tomorrow. It outlines a small plan. It rehearses a brief conversation. It adjusts a sentence that hasn't yet been spoken. Then it fades, not because you pushed it away, but because it lost momentum. The mind continues scanning, but more slowly now. Each new thought takes a little longer to form. Each replay is slightly less vivid than the one before it. The hum is still there, but it is quieter. There is no need to argue with it, no need to command it to stop. The more you try to force the switch off, the more the mind resists. Instead, you simply lie here. Aware, breathing, listening to the quiet. The room remains unchanged. The air is still. Somewhere outside, distant sounds may exist, but they do not intrude. They pass by without asking for attention. Inside, thoughts continue at a softer pace. A small detail returns, then dissolves halfway through its replay. It no longer feels necessary to finish it. The mind begins to tire of its own motion. All day it has been sharp, focused, responsive. Now, in the dark, without stimulation, it starts to lose that sharpness. Ideas blur slightly at the edges. A thought begins, then pauses. Not because it was stopped, but because it no longer feels urgent enough to continue. The body sinks further. Breathing deepens almost imperceptibly. The space between breaths widens just a little. There is no clear moment when the day ends. It fades instead. And your mind, still softly awake, begins to realize that nothing new is arriving. No messages, no decisions, no changes. Just quiet. The hum is softer now. Not gone, just less interested. And as the night stretches gently around you, with your body already resting and your thoughts slowly losing their clarity, the mind continues moving, but with slightly less certainty, slightly less urgency, as if it is beginning to understand that it no longer needs to stay fully switched on. And as that quiet realization settles in, the habit of staying alert continues a little longer, gently scanning for anything unfinished, even when there is nothing left to find. The night has grown quieter, but something inside you is still listening. Not for noise exactly, not for anything dramatic, just listening. Your body remains settled against the mattress, breathing slow and even. The room hasn't changed. The air is steady. The darkness is soft. Yet your mind continues a subtle scan, as if it has one final responsibility to complete before it can truly rest. It checks lightly for anything unfinished. Was there something you forgot? A message you didn't answer? A detail you meant to confirm? The questions are not loud. They do not rush. They appear calmly, one at a time, like small notifications drifting through a dim hallway. The habit of staying alert has been useful all day. It has kept you organized, responsive, careful. It has helped you navigate conversations and decisions in moments that required attention. Now, in the quiet of the night, that same habit hasn't yet understood that its shift is over. So it continues. Your mind opens small mental drawers. one by one, just to see what's inside. It reviews tomorrow's outline, even if tomorrow is simple. It replays brief fragments of the afternoon. It holds them up to check if they are complete. Nothing feels wrong. Nothing feels urgent. And yet the scanning continues. You might notice how automatic it is. You are not commanding these checks. They simply happen. Like a security guard walking the same route at the end of the night, not because danger is present, but because the routine is familiar. The mind likes familiar routines. All day long, it has been trained to anticipate, to prepare, to notice. So now, when you ask it to do nothing, it hesitates. Doing nothing feels unnatural at first. The darkness does not provide tasks. The quiet does not offer instructions. There is nothing new to respond to. No messages arriving. No decisions pending in this exact moment. And yet your mind gently continues its watch. You lie still, aware of this process. A thought appears about something small. A forgotten errand that is not urgent. A minor conversation that already ended. A plan that could easily wait until morning. The mind holds each one briefly, as if confirming, yes, this exists. Then it moves on to the next. Your breathing remains steady, perhaps slightly deeper than before. The body has grown heavier, more comfortable in its stillness. There is no tension asking to be released. No discomfort pulling for attention. Only the quiet scanning. It may feel as though your mind is waiting for permission, waiting for a signal that it can finally stop checking. But the night does not provide a clear signal. There is no announcement that says, everything is complete. Instead, there is only this gradual softening. You notice that the thoughts, while still present, are forming more slowly now. The space between them is widening. The mental drawer opens, but it does not stay open as long. The review becomes less detailed. Perhaps you begin to realize that there is nothing new to discover in these checks. The same details. Repeat. The same small concerns. The same unfinished edges. And each time they appear, they feel slightly less important. The mind's alertness begins to lose its intensity. It is still on, but it is not as sharp, like a light dimmed rather than switched off. You remain here, not trying to force silence, not demanding that the habit disappear, simply observing the gentle rhythm of it. Scan, pause, release. Scan, pause, release. The pauses are becoming more noticeable now. They stretch just a little longer. In those small gaps, there is no urgent thought waiting to rush in. There is simply space. The mind does not quite know what to do with space at first, but it begins to adapt. Another thought surfaces, weaker than the last. It tries to gather momentum, but it feels heavier, less defined. It cannot hold your attention for long. It fades before it fully forms. The habit of staying alert has been running for hours today. It is beginning to tire. Your body continues its quiet descent into rest. Shoulders relaxed, jaw loose, hands still. The mattress supports you without effort. Gravity does most of the work now. There is nothing you need to monitor in this moment. No outcome depends on your attention right now. The night is self-sufficient. Your mind may not completely accept this yet, but it is beginning to understand. The scans are softer, The mental drawers open halfway, then close. Tomorrow remains where it belongs, somewhere ahead. Not here in the dark. You do not need to prepare for it in this second. Breathing deepens slightly again. The rhythm feels steady and automatic, as though your body has fully committed to rest, even if your thoughts are still deciding. Another small check arises. Did you forget anything? The question lingers for a moment. Then, for the first time tonight, the answer does not matter. The mind searches briefly, finds nothing urgent, and does not continue the investigation. It pauses. And in that pause, there is a noticeable stillness, not complete silence, but a soft quiet that feels different from before. The habit of staying alert is still present, but it is loosening its grip. It no longer scans with precision. It glances instead of studies. The night holds steady around you, patient and unchanging. You remain here, breathing slowly, allowing the dimmed light of your thoughts to continue fading at its own pace. There is no switch. Only gradual dimming. And as that dimming continues, the sense of urgency attached to each small thought begins to thin, making room for something even softer, something that does not need to stay alert at all. And in that growing softness, even the smallest thoughts begin to feel larger than they truly are, rising gently in the quiet as if asking to be examined one last time. The quiet has deepened now, and in that quiet, even the smallest thought seems to echo. What would have felt insignificant during the day begins to feel slightly larger in the dark. A simple comment, a tiny mistake, a minor plan for tomorrow. Each one rises gently, but in the stillness, it carries more weight than it did before. That isn't that the thought has changed. It's that the background has during the day. Noise absorbs small concerns. Movement dilutes them. Other voices and responsibilities keep them in proportion. But now, lying here in the dark, there is space around each idea. And that space makes it seem more important. A brief memory drifts in. Something you said earlier. It was ordinary. It passed quickly. Yet here, in the quiet, your mind replays it as if it deserves closer inspection. Was that the right tone? Should you have added something more? The questions do not shout. They simply linger. Your body remains calm. Your breathing continues its slow rhythm. But inside your mind, each small detail arrives as if requesting a second look. The mind, still partly alert, assumes that anything returning must matter. Why else would it appear again? So it studies the thought carefully. It examines the edges. It tries to understand whether there was something hidden within it. But often, there isn't. The thought only feels larger because there is nothing else competing with it. You notice how a tiny worry can stretch itself in the dark. It can gather extra meaning. It can take up more space than it deserves. Simple tomorrow task begins to feel urgent. A small unfinished detail feels incomplete in a way that demands resolution. Yet nothing has truly changed. Tomorrow is still tomorrow. The past remains unchanged. Only the quiet has amplified the volume. The mind does not enjoy loose ends. It prefers completion. It prefers certainty. And in the dark, without distraction, it tries to create closure where none is needed. Another thought surfaces. This one smaller than the last. Perhaps it is about something that may never even happen. A possibility. A hypothetical scenario. The mind gently constructs it, piece by piece, as though rehearsing for an event that may never arrive. You lie still, observing this. The body does not tense. The heart does not race. There is no panic. Only this subtle magnifying effect. It is as if the mind has turned on a small spotlight in a dark room, and whatever falls within that light appears brighter than it truly is. But the spotlight is growing dimmer. You begin to notice that while the thoughts still rise, they do not hold their shape as long. The edges blur more quickly. The urgency attached to them feels slightly thinner than before. The mind attempts to treat each one as important, but the night does not cooperate. The darkness remains neutral. It does not confirm the urgency. It does not reinforce the concern. It simply stays quiet. Another minor idea appears. It tries to gather attention. It tries to expand, but without resistance, without argument. You allow it to be there. You do not rush to solve it. You do not push it away. You simply notice it. And something interesting happens when you do not engage. The thought begins to lose its size without analysis. It shrinks back to its original proportions. It was never as large as it seemed. It only appeared that way because of the stillness around it. Your breathing deepens slightly again. The body remains settled, heavy, and supported. There is no signal of danger in your muscles. No urgency in your heartbeat. The mind continues to produce small details, but each one arrives with less conviction. The spotlight grows softer. The next thought enters quietly, but instead of feeling amplified, it feels distant, like something observed through a thin layer of fog. You may begin to sense that not every thought requires examination. Not every detail needs a solution. The mind has simply been trained to treat them all as significant. All day long. It has filtered, prioritized, solved, responded. Now, in the absence of tasks, it struggles to understand that nothing demands immediate attention. So it presents small things as if they are important, but you are beginning to see through that pattern. Another minor memory floats up. It lingers for a moment, waiting for you to analyze it. You do not. You let it remain incomplete. And slowly, without conflict, it dissolves. The magnifying effect weakens. The silence no longer amplifies each thought. Instead, it absorbs them. The dark room in your mind feels wider now. The spotlight dimmer. Thoughts still come, but they are less convincing, less persuasive, less insistent. The body remains calm. The mind, though still active, is growing less certain of what truly matters in this moment. It presents one more small concern, but it feels softer than the rest, as if even the mind is questioning whether it deserves attention. You breathe in slowly. You breathe out gently. And with each breath, the scale shifts slightly. What once felt important begins to feel optional. What once demanded review begins to feel distant. The urgency that wrapped itself around each small idea loosens its grip. The thoughts no longer echo as loudly. They rise. Soften. They fade. The night does not argue with them. It does not push them away. It simply remains steady, and in its steadiness, The small details lose their amplified weight. You remain still, noticing how the space between thoughts continues to widen. Each pause feels longer. Each new idea feels less solid. The mind is still awake, but its habit of magnifying small things is beginning to thin, leaving behind something gentler, something quieter, something that feels less concerned with solving and more willing to simply drift. And as that drifting begins, you may notice that while your body has long been ready for rest, your mind is only now starting to realize that it does not need to stay fully awake. Your body has been ready for a while now. Long before your thoughts began to soften, your body had already chosen stillness. The mattress supports you evenly. Your shoulders no longer carry the weight of the day. Your jaw rests without effort. Even your hands lie open, as if they have nothing left to hold. Breathing moves in and out with quiet regularity. Inhale, exhale, slow, unforced, automatic. Your body understands something your mind has not fully accepted yet. It understands that the work of today is complete, that the muscles can release, that the spine can sink a little deeper, that gravity can take over the task of holding you in place. The mind, however, still drifts lightly from thought to thought. Not urgently, not anxiously, just habitually. It continues because it has been moving all day. It does not yet realize that it can stop, but the body has already shifted into rest mode. You may notice the weight of your legs pressing more firmly into the mattress, the warmth of the blanket resting evenly across your chest, the gentle rise and fall beneath it as you breathe. There is no tension asking to be solved. No signal of danger in your muscles. Your heart beats steadily, without rush. The body is calm, and yet the mind keeps producing small flickers of awareness, a brief memory, a half-formed plan, a sentence that almost completes itself before dissolving. It is as if the mind is pacing in a quiet room, while the rest of you has already gone to sleep. You do not need to force it to lie down. Instead, you let the body lead. Breathing deepens just slightly again, not dramatically, just enough to be noticed. The exhale lingers a fraction longer than before. Your body grows heavier, heavier in a comforting way. The weight spreads evenly from your shoulders down through your back. Your hips settle, your legs sink. Even your neck relaxes further into its support. The mind notices this. It continues moving, but with less conviction. Presents another small thought, but it does so more quietly now, as if unsure whether it will be entertained. You remain still. There is no need to follow the thought. The body continues its slow descent. You may notice the space between breaths widening. A slight pause after the exhale before the next inhale begins. A natural rhythm that requires no management. The mind, still active, begins to feel slightly out of place. Its motion contrasts with the stillness of your body. And slowly, almost without realizing it, the mind begins to match that stillness. The thoughts do not stop completely, but they shorten, they fragment. Instead of full sentences, they become brief impressions. Instead of detailed reviews, they become simple flashes. The body's calm spreads upward. Your face relaxes further. Your eyelids rest more heavily against each other. Your tongue rests gently against the bottom of your mouth. Nothing in your physical form is preparing for action. Everything is preparing for rest. The mind senses this shift. Another thought begins to form, but it feels less solid than before. It arrives halfway constructed, and then loses interest in completing itself. You breathe in. You breathe out. The rhythm is steady, like waves meeting the shore and retreating again. The body trusts. This rhythm. The mind is beginning to trust it too. There is no switch to flip, no command to issue. Only this quiet alignment happening gradually. Your body has already surrendered to gravity. Your mind is simply catching up. Another pause appears between thoughts. Longer than before. In that pause, there is no effort required. No scanning. No reviewing. Just the sensation of weight and breath and darkness surrounding you evenly. The mind attempts one more small movement. A faint idea about tomorrow. But it feels distant now. Less urgent. Almost optional. It dissolves. Before it can gather shape, the body remains. Heavy. The mattress holds you. Effortlessly. The air in the room feels still and steady. Nothing demands your attention. The mind notices that there is nothing new to respond to. No incoming signals. No problems presenting themselves. Only this steady physical calm. And slowly, that calm becomes contagious. The mind begins mirroring the body's rhythm. Breath. Pause. Breath. Thoughts, when they appear, are softer, less defined. They drift through without asking to be analyzed. Your body has been ready all along. Now your mind is beginning to realize that it can follow. The heaviness increases slightly again, spreading from your chest down through your limbs. The edges of awareness blur gently, not disappearing, but softening. The contrast between body and mind narrows. They begin to move together. Breathing grows. Slower. Thoughts grow shorter. Stillness grows deeper. There is no clear moment when the mind agrees to rest. It simply stops resisting. The body's lead. And as that alignment continues, as breath and weight and darkness settle evenly around you, the urge to fill every pause begins to fade, making room for something quieter than thought, something that does not need to stay alert at all. And in that growing quiet, you may begin to notice the small pauses between thoughts stretching wider, no longer needing to be filled with anything at all. The pauses are easier to notice now. They were always there, hidden between one thought and the next, but they were too brief to feel like anything at all. Now they stretch slightly wider, like small clearings opening in a dense forest. A thought forms. It fades, and instead of another rushing in immediately, there is space. At first, the space feels unfamiliar. Your mind has grown used to filling every gap. All day long, it has moved from one task to the next without interruption. It has bridged silence with planning. It has filled waiting with reviewing. Now, in the quiet of the night, something different is happening. A pause appears, and nothing insists on occupying it. Your breathing continues steadily beneath this shift. The rise and fall of your chest remains calm and even. Your body feels heavier still, settled into the mattress in a way that requires no adjustment. The pause widens. It does not demand anything. It does not feel like something missing. It simply exists. Another small thought drifts through. It brushes against your awareness lightly, then dissolves. And once again, instead of another immediately replacing it, there is space. The mind hesitates, almost as if waiting for a cue, but there is no cue. Only the steady rhythm of breath. Inhale. Exhale. The silence between them feels fuller now, not empty. Not lacking, just quiet. You may notice how the urge to analyze has softened. A thought begins, but it does not automatically pull you into its details. It remains at the surface, faint and incomplete. It passes. Another pause. The body continues to lead. Muscles remain loose. Shoulders remain heavy. Even the smallest movements have stopped. There is no shifting, no adjustment. You are simply resting. The pauses stretch longer. They are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves. They simply arrive, gently widening the space between moments. In these pauses, there is no story to follow. No problem to solve. No future to prepare for. Only the quiet presence of the room around you. The darkness feels steady and even. It does not change shape. It does not demand interpretation. It simply surrounds you softly. A faint idea tries to form again. Perhaps something about tomorrow. It appears without urgency, as if testing whether it still matters. It does not gather enough strength to continue. It dissolves halfway through. Another pause. This one feels longer than the last. The mind does not rush to close it. It lingers there, suspended in a kind of gentle stillness. You may begin to sense that the pauses are becoming more comfortable than the thoughts themselves. Thoughts require energy. They require structure. They require movement. Pauses require nothing. They are simply spaces where nothing is happening, and that nothing begins to feel safe. Your breathing deepens slightly again, though you do not control it. It happens on its own, as if your body is confirming that it trusts this stillness. The exhale lasts a fraction longer. The space after it stretches gently. No thought arrives to interrupt it. There is only the quiet hum of being here, lying still, supported, safe. The mind seems less interested in filling every opening now. It allows one pause to blend into the next. A faint fragment of a thought flickers, an unfinished sentence, a partial image, but it feels distant, as if it belongs to another layer of awareness. It does not demand your participation. It fades. The pauses grow smoother, less noticeable because they are becoming the default. Instead of thinking interrupted by silence, there is silence occasionally touched by thought. Balance has shifted. You are not trying to achieve this. You are not guiding it. It is happening because the body has been steady for so long, because the room has remained quiet, because nothing new is asked for. Attention. The mind is adapting. It is beginning to understand that not every space needs filling. Another small gap opens. You remain inside it comfortably. There is no discomfort in doing nothing. No urgency in staying. Alert. No pressure to produce another idea. The pause lingers. At another, breath flows easily. Weight of your body feels even and supported. Your eyelids remain closed without effort. There is a softness around your awareness now, as if the edges of thought have blurred gently into the surrounding quiet. A thought tries to surface once more, but it feels faint, almost transparent. It drifts away before it can take form. The pause that follows feels natural. Familiar. Easy. Silence no longer feels like something that needs to be managed. It feels like the default setting of the night. Your mind, once so eager to review and rehearse, now seems content to rest inside these spaces. The pauses widen further. They stretch between breaths. Between awareness. Between moments. Nothing is missing. Nothing is unresolved in this second. You are simply here, And as these pauses continue to expand, as silence becomes more comfortable than thought, the need to monitor every detail begins to loosen further, making room for an even softer surrender of attention. And in that gentle surrender, the habit of monitoring everything begins to fade, as if your mind is finally realizing that there is nothing left it needs to watch. The pauses have grown steady now, almost seamless dot where once your mind moved in constant small circles. Scanning and reviewing, there is now a softness in its rhythm. Thoughts no longer arrive with urgency. They appear faintly, like distant lights flickering far away, and then dim again without insistence. The habit of monitoring everything is loosening. All day long, your mind has kept watch. It has checked for changes, tracked small details, noticed shifts in tone and time. It has ensured that nothing important slipped by unnoticed. That vigilance has been useful, necessary even. But here, in the quiet of the night, nothing is moving. There are no new signals, no changes to detect, no tasks unfolding in real time. The room remains still. The air remains steady. Your body remains heavy and supported, and slowly. The part of your mind that feels responsible for overseeing everything begins to recognize that its role has ended for now. It hesitates at first. A faint impulse arises to check once more. A gentle scan of tomorrow's outline. A brief glance at something small that might need attention. But the impulse is weaker than before. It carries less conviction. You do not follow it. You let it pass. Your breathing remains even, deep, and quiet. Each inhale flows naturally into each exhale. There is no effort behind it. No management required. The body has been steady for so long that the mind begins to mirror that steadiness. Another faint monitoring impulse appears, but it feels distant now, as if it belongs to an earlier version of the evening. It flickers, then dims before it can gather shape. There is nothing here to supervise. The night does not require oversight. The darkness does not need management. Even tomorrow does not require attention in this moment. Your shoulders sink a fraction deeper. Your chest rises slowly beneath the blanket. The weight of your body feels evenly distributed. Fully supported. There is no tension hiding in your muscles. No. Alertness stored in your posture. The body has surrendered completely to rest. And the mind, noticing this sustained calm, begins to release its grip. Attention softens. Instead of scanning outward, it turns inward briefly and diffuses altogether. It is no longer sharp, no longer focused on details. It feels wider, less concentrated. A thought drifts in barely formed. It does not request analysis. It does not insist on resolution. It simply passes through your awareness like a cloud moving across a dark sky. You do not chase it. It fades. The monitoring habit grows quieter. There is a difference now between awareness and vigilance. Awareness remains gentle and open. Vigilance, however, is no longer needed. And without reinforcement, it begins to dissolve. Another breath. Slow. Even. Unmanaged. You may notice how little effort is required to remain here. There is no strategy to maintain, no technique to perform. The body lies still. The mind floats lightly above that. Stillness, even the desire to ensure that you are relaxing correctly, begins to fade. There is nothing to measure, nothing to check, nothing to confirm. The mind seems to recognize that it can rest its own. Attention. It does not need to hover over tomorrow's possibilities. It does not need to rehearse outcomes. It does not need to stand guard at the edge of consciousness. The guard can step away, not abruptly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. A soft awareness remains, but it is no longer scanning. It is no longer comparing or reviewing. It simply exists. The pauses between thoughts now feel more like a continuous space rather than interruptions. Thoughts, when they appear, feel like brief ripples on the surface of something much deeper and still. Your breathing anchors this depth. Inhale. Exhale. The rhythm is slow and steady, like waves touching the shore and retreating without disturbance. The body remains warm and heavy. The room remains unchanged. Nothing new enters your awareness. And because nothing new appears, the mind grows less interested in maintaining control. Control itself begins to feel unnecessary. The edges of attention blur gently. Focus spreads outward, then thins. Instead of concentrating on specific details, your awareness feels diffuse and open, as if it is settling into a wider field where nothing demands examination. Another faint impulse to monitor arises, barely noticeable this time. It tries to ask a quiet question about something small, but the question does not complete itself. It dissolves halfway through. The habit has lost its momentum. You remain here, breathing, resting, allowing the night to hold everything without supervision. There is no shift in the room, no change in the air, no signal requiring alertness. And with each steady breath, the need to watch, to check, to oversee fades further into the background. Your mind no longer feels like a guard on duty. It feels more like a quiet observer, gently drifting. The heaviness of your body supports this drift. The darkness supports it. The silence supports it. There is nothing left to monitor, nothing left to oversee. And as this realization settles deeper, as attention loosens its hold and spreads into something softer and less focused, the effort to switch off begins to feel unnecessary, because there is nothing left that needs to stay switched on. And in that gentle realization, you may notice that the very effort to turn your mind off is fading too, replaced by something much softer than effort at all. There comes a subtle shift in the night when you stop trying. You may not notice the exact moment it happens. It does not arrive with a decision. It does not feel like a clear choice. It simply unfolds quietly, almost unnoticed. Earlier, there was effort. Not loud effort, not dramatic effort, but a quiet desire to switch off. A subtle wish for your mind to settle completely. A gentle hope that sleep would arrive sooner rather than later. That effort is thinning now. You are no longer measuring how awake you feel. You are no longer checking whether your thoughts have stopped. You are simply here. Breathing. Resting. The body has long since surrendered to the mattress. The weight of it feels natural now, familiar and steady. Your shoulders do not hold tension. Your jaw does not press together. Even your fingers rest loosely, without curl or grip. There is nothing left to adjust. The mind drifts lightly, but it no longer tries to manage its own drifting. Earlier, a thought would appear, and you would notice it. Perhaps you would follow it briefly, or try to shorten it. Now, thoughts arrive and fade without commentary. Are not trying to stop them. You are not encouraging them either. They pass like distant sounds you choose not to listen to. Breath flows in, breath flows out. The rhythm is soft and Unremarkable. You may sense how the desire to switch off was itself a form of activity, a small internal instruction, a quiet command. Even that has relaxed. There is nothing to achieve. Here. No goal to reach. No target state to enter. The night is not something you must conquer. It is something you are already inside. A faint fragment of thought rises, barely noticeable. It feels like a leftover echo rather than a fully formed idea. It drifts near the surface of awareness, then dissolves before it gathers shape. You do not intervene. You do not evaluate. Effort has faded. Your breathing deepens slightly again, though you do not control it. The exhale lingers just a bit longer than before, and the pause afterwards stretches naturally. The mind, once concerned with turning itself off, now seems indifferent. It no longer pushes against. Wakefulness. It no longer argues with rest. It simply exists in a softer state. You may notice that the edges of your awareness feel less defined. The room around you feels farther away. The sensation of the mattress beneath you blends into a generalized sense of support rather than a specific surface. There is no urgency anywhere. Even time feels less precise. Are not counting minutes. You are not wondering how long you have been here. The idea of trying to sleep has loosened its grip. Trying was an I. Activity. Now there is only resting. Another breath moves through you, slow and even. The weight of your body feels steady and warm. The blanket rests gently across your chest. Nothing shifts. The mind floats lightly, but it does not organize itself into structured thinking. There are no clear sentences forming, no rehearsals, no reviews. Just faint impressions, barely distinguishable from the surrounding quiet. You may notice that awareness itself feels heavier, as if it is slowly sinking into something softer beneath it. There is no switch being flipped. No clear line between wakefulness and sleep, only a gradual blurring. The desire to control this process has dissolved. You are no longer watching yourself fall asleep. You are simply lying here, breathing, resting, allowing whatever happens to happen. A distant fragment of memory flickers briefly, but it lacks color and detail. It feels incomplete and unimportant. It fades without resistance. The night continues evenly around you. The air remains still. The darkness remains soft. Your body remains supported and heavy. And your mind, once so intent on staying alert, now seems content to drift without direction. There is nothing left to supervise, nothing left to adjust. Even the concept of switching off feels unnecessary. The mind does not need to be turned off. It only needs to grow quieter. And that quiet is already happening. Breath. Pause. Breath. Pause. Each cycle feels slower than the last. Not dramatically, but enough to be felt. Your awareness softens further. Thoughts, if they appear at all, are vague and fleeting. They do not hold shape. They do not demand participation. You are not trying, are not waiting. You are not anticipating. The moment sleep begins, you are simply resting inside this softening. The body feels distant in a comforting way, as if it belongs to the mattress more than to you. The room feels distant as well, as if it exists somewhere beyond the edge of awareness. The effort is gone, and in the absence of effort, Something gentler takes its place. Not sleep yet, but something very close. Thinning of focus. A spreading of quiet. A softness that no longer needs instruction. The mind, no longer tasked with staying on, drifts without purpose, and as that drift deepens, as effort fully dissolves and nothing remains to be controlled, the night itself begins to carry you the rest of the way, without announcement, without urgency, without any need for you to do anything at all. And as the night quietly carries what remains of your awareness, even the idea of being awake begins to blur into something softer and less defined. There is no dramatic shift, no sudden silence, no clear line where wakefulness ends and sleep begins. Instead, there is this gradual thinning. Your thoughts no longer arrive in full sentences. They do not complete themselves. They form halfway, then dissolve before meaning fully settles. The mind is still present, but it feels distant, as if it is operating from farther away than before. Your body has been resting for some time now. The weight of it feels natural, fully supported, no longer something you actively notice. The mattress holds you without effort. The blanket rests lightly against your chest. The air around you remains still and undisturbed. Breathing continues, slow and steady. Inhale, exhale. The pause between them stretches gently. There is no intention behind this rhythm. It moves on its own, like something that has always known how to carry you toward rest. A faint impression flickers through your awareness. Not quite a thought, not quite an image. Something softer. It passes without needing to be understood. Do not follow it. There is nothing to follow. The night has taken over the work. Earlier, your mind tried to manage the process. It tried to switch off, to monitor, to soften deliberately. Now, even that effort feels far away. The need to guide yourself towards sleep has disappeared. There is no need to guide what is already happening. The edges of awareness blur further. The room around you feels less distinct. The sense of your body becomes more generalized, less specific. Instead of noticing individual sensations, there is simply a broad sense of warmth and weight. Another faint fragment appears, perhaps a word, perhaps a memory, but it lacks structure. It does not connect to anything else. It floats briefly, then fades. The mind is no longer constructing. Sequences. It is no longer reviewing. It is no longer preparing. It is simply drifting. Your breathing deepens slightly again, though you are not aware of deciding to breathe that way. The exhale lingers a little longer, and the pause afterward feels effortless. Nothing interrupts it. The silence between breaths feels fuller now. Not empty, but complete. There is nothing missing in this moment. Nothing unresolved. Nothing that needs your attention. The night continues without supervision. Awareness feels softer, less anchored. It is as if you are listening from a distance, rather than from the center of thought. Sounds, if they exist at all, feel far away. Sensations feel diffused. A small, almost dreamlike image flickers for a moment, too faint to hold, too vague to analyze. It dissolves before you can focus on it. This is how the transition happens. Not by force, not by command, but by gentle thinning. The mind no longer resists the quiet. It no longer seeks stimulation. It no longer scans for unfinished pieces. Everything has been handed over to the night. Breath continues. Slow, not even unmanaged. Your body feels heavier still, though not in a way that demands notice. It simply feels distant, as if it belongs entirely to the mattress now. There is no desire to move, no impulse to adjust. Stillness has become natural. Another faint thought tries to form, but it feels like it belongs to a different layer of awareness, closer to dreaming than thinking. It has no urgency, no clarity. It slips away before it can solidify. Time feels less measurable. Minutes no longer feel distinct. There is only this soft continuation of breath and weight and darkness. The night does not hurry. It does not announce progress. It simply carries you. The difference between thinking and not thinking becomes harder to notice. Thoughts blur into impressions. Impressions blur into quiet. You are no longer observing the process. You are inside it. A deeper pause arrives between breaths. It feels long, though there is no need to measure it. The inhale that follows is smooth and automatic. Nothing needs to be adjusted. Nothing needs to be improved. The night finishes. The work quietly. Where there was once effort, there is now absence of effort. Where there was once monitoring, there is now release. Where there was once alertness, there is now softness. The last fragments of structured thought dissolve into something shapeless and light. They do not return with clarity. They do not demand resolution. They simply thin out. The room remains unchanged, but it feels farther away. The concept of the room itself begins to lose importance. The edges of your awareness narrow gently, focusing less on the external world and more on a soft internal drift. Breath continues. Pause. Breath. Pause. Each cycle feels quieter than the last. There is no need to mark this moment. No need to notice when sleep arrives. It arrives gradually, like a tide rising without sound. The mind no longer distinguishes clearly between awareness and dream. Faint images blend with silence. Sensations blend with absence of sensation. You are no longer trying. No longer waiting. No longer aware of needing to switch off. The switch was never necessary. The dimming was enough. And now, as the final fragments of alertness fade into something softer than thought, something quieter than intention, the night continues gently on its own, holding what remains of your awareness without effort, without urgency, without any need for you to do anything at all.